Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Ichigo awoke his true powers to save his mother is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Transmigrated into a nightmare mode Dragon Ball world? What if Reborn in Highschool DxD as a Lucifuge? What if Fishing System in Food Wars world? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 121, Phantom Division. Third Person POV. Land of Fire, Year 36. Minato was calm while waiting for the rest of the ninjas to arrive, which took 2 days for everyone from the 11-person squad to finally return. We're back. I want you all to write your reports and hand them to me to pass on to our superiors. How is our prisoner, Lumum? Alpha gathered everyone before finally concluding the mission. He's with the member of the Yamanaka clan. They're studying his mind to find information about the new poison, Lumum informed. Alright, you can write the report, and you're free to return to your camp, he instructed, heading towards the command tent. It seems we finally finished, one of the 11 spoke. Let's do the report, then we can talk, another said as the group sat down right there to start writing. The ninjas from that camp looked curiously at them. After all, everyone knew the masked ninjas as ninjas on rank A and S missions. They were the elite among missions involving direct ambushes under the command of the Hokage, dispatched to assist in the war, or even ninjas with great strength among the camps. They were not the only team. There were a few others, like the team that invaded the camps of the Sand Ninjas behind the information they were taking the poison formula to the Sand Ninjas in the north, an incident that happened a few months ago, when the first poison was a major problem for the ninjas of Konoha. However, this team was called Phantom Division, due to their great strength in carrying out the mission and retreating at the same time. Minato had joined this division due to the recent loss of a member, and he was only temporary, which was recommended by Janto, who suggested him, and as soon as he completed his first missions, he was quickly accepted by the group, with Alpha, the leader, officially making him a member of the group due to being very useful on the battlefield with his unique teleportation jutsu and strength, which surpassed a Jonin with the Raijin, believing he had the strength of an elite Jonin, even at just 12 years old and the rank of Genin, and as Minato did not reveal his true power, he did not mind people speculating about his strength like this. They wrote their reports a moment later and waited for Alpha to return. So Lumum is becoming a Chunin soon? Horny, one of the 11, asked, looking at Lumum. The other members with codenames like Zelda, Echo, Blade, Ghost, Falcon, Whisper, Vortex, Mirage. He told me he is. Looks like our mascot will no longer be a Genin, Zelda commented, because of Minato being a child with him. The others started laughing at that. That's good, we have to celebrate immediately, Mirage, being the only woman in the group, exclaimed. I knew she would be the first to talk about celebration. Have you seen how she drinks? Echo spoke. Have you seen how you eat, you fat clown? Mirage teased, crossing her arms at Echo. At least I don't drink like you, Echo replied. You. Thus, they began to argue in the middle of the group, which was quite normal. While they were on missions, they were very serious, but when they casually conversed among themselves, they always argued, especially these two. Mirage was from the Kurama clan, powerful in Genjutsu, quite famous in this time of Konoha. This particular woman was quite an alcoholic. Echo was from the Akimichi clan and they were known for eating a lot. Minato had already had contact with one of them, so he knew the woman's complaints. They are arguing. The ninjas around saw the group gathered and murmured at a distance. That's the Phantom Division. I heard they got the poison a month ago, even before the Sand Ninjas used it on the battlefield, another gossip, looking at the group. It's better not to mess with them, or get close. You're right. While they gossiped and discussed, Minato sighed at this, looking at one shouting at the other at that moment. Can you stop yelling at each other? If Alpha sees us like this, our next mission will be cleaning the camp's toilets. Whisper exclaimed. He's right. Echo murmured. Tisk, Mirage said as she crossed her arms and turned her face away. Anyway, we should be happy for Lumum, Horny still has his bottle of rum. We should celebrate, Blade said. Wait a minute, Lumum is just a child, you want to give him alcohol? Give your potion to me. Mirage exclaimed as the others shook their heads at her ridiculous demand. Don't be a killjoy, Lumum can drink just this once. Let's do it in the next few days before any mission, Zelda murmured. Anyway. Congratulations, kid, I knew you'd have a bright future, Falcon commented. Thank you, teacher. Lumum murmured, after all, Falcon was his teacher from the Aburain clan who participated in the rescue mission of the Demeo. They ended up meeting and he was strongly recommended to Alpha once he heard about the boy while others thought he was just a child on a dangerous mission, which of course proved a point to the contrary. Teacher, you should call me teacher too, Ghost said to Lumum. You're not even teaching him Kenjutsu yet, why should he call you that, cousin? Blade mocked, they were both from the Hatake clan, but not as famous as Tsukumo, Kakashi's father. That's because the kid hasn't been to my camp yet, which will happen soon, I'm just getting ahead of things. Ghost said as if he were boasting about something. You just want to gain some fame when the kid becomes famous, to say you were his teacher, Whisper mocked. That's not true. Ghost murmured, but everyone knew it was the opposite. Ghost wasn't a bad person, but he certainly wanted to be as famous as Tsukumo. Minato personally didn't care if he would become famous because of him, as long as he could learn the Kenjutsu of the Hatake clan, it was fine for him. They would have continued arguing, but at that moment, Alpha began walking towards them, still with his cloak and mask hiding his identity. Can you stop arguing, the whole camp is listening to this, he complained, while some laughed at the situation and others immediately put their hand where their mouth was on the mask. Alpha sighed, looking at them, and continued, anyway, I'll take your reports, while you take these to the leader of your camp, he said, handing scrolls to everyone. Now, you are dismissed. We will meet in a few days. I will send a message to each of the camp leaders for the summons, he said, and everyone nodded. Zelda nodded and turned to everyone, well, then let's go. Don't forget, we need to celebrate in a few days. And, Horny, don't forget your bottle of rum. They said goodbye and began to leave, while Minato disappeared as always. Minato returned to one of the southern camps, which he was currently at. He was carrying Alpha's report to the commander, making him sigh a bit, since he had to do this. He removed his clothes hidden in his tent and began to exit, passing through the camp, until someone interrupted him in the middle of the place. Look who's here, Minato looked at Tsunade's brother, who was sizing him up from head to toe with curious eyes. Nawaki Senju, he greeted. The boy in front of him was no longer as big as he used to be, while Minato had grown a lot, narrowing the gap between them. Don't call me so formally, Nawaki said with a smile. After all, we are family now, or will be, call me Uncle Nawaki, he said, looking quite audacious. If you're here, then it means. Minato murmured. Yes, your girlfriend, and at the same time, my niece came back with my sister and are in the medical camp, Nawaki said, laughing. Anyway, it's good to see you, Minato said after a sigh. With this guy being quite audacious, he bid farewell to Nawaki before continuing on his way. He went up to the main tent and, as he was about to ask the guards for entry, heard a voice that made him uncomfortable as soon as it reached his ears. Come in, boy, she said, as the guards let Minato enter. He moved inside, and there was Orochimaru in his younger form, reading scrolls here and there about reports on the current situation of the camp and the border. He was a competent leader and quite respected, Minato had to admit, but with the knowledge he had of this guy, Minato always kept his guard up and looked at him cautiously. Orochimaru knew this and even wondered why the boy looked at him with so much mistrust, but he didn't seem to care much about it and just smiled at the prodigy who was surpassing him. Commander Orochimaru, here is the report from my leader, Minato said as he handed the report to Orochimaru. He nodded as he took it and read it in front of the boy, not leaving it. His eyes seemed to glow as he read the lines of the mission that his leader wrote. You did very well, he said, almost sticking out his tongue. Your jutsu is quite unique, Minato-kun. Mastering a jutsu like this at your age is really something of a genius among geniuses, he spoke with a tone of greed, which was no surprise, since Orochimaru had ambitions to want to master all the jutsus in the world in the future, even seeking immortality for such a thing. Thus, seeing someone use an S-rank jutsu, he had quite a natural reaction for his personality and goals. Anyway, you did very well and you will be leaving the camp soon, which is a pity, since you helped me a lot, Orochimaru spoke. Minato always helped wherever he went in recent months, even in bureaucratic situations, starting to learn how to handle the organization of a camp, if one day he took over one. Maybe in the next war. He thought. Now you can go. Good luck, boy, Orochimaru continued and still treated him with respect, and Minato nodded, said goodbye, and left the tent and went back to his own, to organize his things to leave in the next few days. After all, he had to return to the north, since he needed a signature from Jiraiya before returning to another camp in the south, where he was currently doing his missions with the Phantom Division. Minato finally left after a few days. He reappeared in Jiraiya's camp, startling Makoto, since his mark was right next to her at that moment, with him quickly grabbing the kunai that the girl attacked by instinct with a feminine scream. Is this how you treat your old colleague? Minato opened a smile to her, and the girl opened her eyes before realizing he was quite close to her face, causing a big blush to appear. How can you just show up like this after 2 months away? She murmured timidly. Sorry, I was very busy. As much as I wanted to come back here a few times, Minato said sincerely. That's okay, I understand, she murmured still softly. Anyway, let Hanabi know I'm here as soon as you see her. I'll be staying here a few days, so we can spend some time together and talk. I want to know how your training is going. Meanwhile, I'll talk to Jiraiya-sensei. Finally, I'm going to become a Chunin, Minato said, and the girl nodded, already aware of his promotion. You're here then, Jiraiya commented with a big smile when Minato entered the tent a moment later. They had a lot to talk about, and Jiraiya had already prepared the documentation, officially patenting Minato as a Chunin of the Leaf Village. Phantom Division. Alpha, Kojiro, Civil, Elite Jonin. Ambu. Lumum, Minato Namikaze, Civil, Genin or Chunin in the next chapter. Zelda, Fumiko Sarutobi, Jonin. Horny, Keiji, Civil, Jonin, ANBU. Echo, Furia Kimichi, Jonin. Blade, Taro Hataki, Jonin, ANBU. Ghost, Yuki Hataki, Jonin. Falcon, Professor Aburame, Jonin. Whisper, Saya Shimura, Jonin. Vortex, Daichi Hyuga, Jonin, ANBU. Mirage, Kai Kurama, Jonin. Alpha, Lumum, Zelda, Horny, Echo, Blade, Ghost, Falcon, Whisper, Vortex, Mirage. Chapter 122 Enemy Plans. Third-person POV. Land of Fire, Year 38. The week Minato became a Chunin was quite a celebratory one for the boy. As he spent time with his peers, he talked with them about some moments during that day, and the next day, he returned to the camp in the south, continuing to assist Orochimaru as best as he could. Days passed, and he was at a new camp when he met up with the Phantom Division a few days later. They stopped to celebrate with Minato, who ended up drinking a little. After all, he was the reason for that celebration. Weeks and then months passed until a new year arrived. It had been another 6 months since Minato had taken on the Chunin post. They continued performing all kinds of missions while Minato kept assisting the camps he passed through and training in Fuinjutsu. The war was still going poorly for Konoha's side, with many losses. A new poison created by Chiyo had been deployed on the battlefield, while Tsunade hadn't yet fully found a cure for the one affecting the Konoha ninjas. Although the alchemist had provided plenty of information for her to make the poison non-lethal, it was still disabling ninjas from the battlefield. Minato had lost many comrades during this time. He saw many acquaintances, people who had spoken with him being killed, often happening while he was out on a secret mission, and when he returned, he received news of these people's deaths. It was really a grim scenario for anyone, but that was war, and even if Madara would regret it, he would do the same, reaping numerous lives during all those months on his infiltration and offensive missions. Death followed him, and he had to accept it, just not expecting something like that to happen to the most important people to him in this war. Even though he was distant from his kind, Minato often visited them and even taught them in their training. "Hey, what are you doing?" A voice reached Minato's ears as he turned his face to see a man with white hair approaching. "I was just thinking about a few things," Minato replied while standing in front of a stream, looking at his reflection in the water, thinking about everything that had happened in the past months. It wouldn't be long before he turned 13 years old, and it was already year 38, 2 years of war while Minato had been here for almost a year and a half. He and his team were working as war ambus. They contributed a lot to the war, but it still wasn't enough for Konoha to get ahead. "Stop thinking. You've finally come to this camp after so long, it's time to start training you," the ninja said with a smile. This was Yuki Hatake, who goes by the codename Ghost in the Phantom Division. He had been offering to train Minato in Kenjutsu for almost a year. Now that Minato was in his camp, he could finally train with him. "Let's go then," Minato said in the end. After all, he wanted to learn the techniques of the Hatake clan. Maybe he could become a swordsman in the future. "Take this sword." Yuki handed a short sword to Minato as they moved to a spot where they wouldn't bother the sentinels around the camp. "Now I want you to show me what you can do." Yuki continued speaking while he picked up his sword, to gauge Minato's level. But the fight didn't go so well for the young Chunin. After all, he had never fought with a sword before. "You have surprising strength, even reinforcing my arms with chakra. I still felt them getting numb with each strike." Yuki started after they finished. "But you lack technique. Not that I blame you for that, however, I will help you become as good a swordsman as me," he said with a self-assured smile. "That's fine." Despite Minato thinking this guy was a bit too full of himself, he still liked the man and knew he could learn a lot from him. The rest of the day Minato spent training with Yuki, learning all the basic moves in Kenjutsu. After that, they returned to the camp, while Minato took the opportunity to see the forge still operating. In the 12 camps of Konoha, some had forges, though most of the resources came from the Leaf Village with ninja teams bringing them to the front lines. There were still some camps with forges to assist them and ninjas specialized in metal shaping, managing them. "Mr. Kusura." Minato approached the man as he was hammering metal into kunais. "HM? Ah, the boy, you're here." He greeted Minato. Kusura was a civilian who specialized in metal forging. He held a Chunin rank from the village and had been helping in the war from the start. "I came to check if my order is ready," Minato asked, and he nodded. "Sure, I made those strange kunais you requested," he said while pointing to a box next to him. These kunais were different from the traditional ones, being those that the original Minato used. Minato had wanted to create them ever since the rescue mission but hadn't had much time for it, being busy with the war. Now in this camp, he found a blacksmith, to whom he passed the weapon's design, and although it was a type that Kusura had never created before, he still made a mold and Minato gave the final details before he created them perfectly as planned. Minato approached the separate box and there were 100 kunais. "I couldn't put them in a scroll because I don't have the knowledge that you few Injutsu users have." He spoke while Minato nodded without issue. He himself opened a scroll and began placing the kunais inside. "Thank you," Minato said before handing over some money, and he departed. Minato walked through the camp and went to the main tent, passing by the guards after the leader let him in. "You're here, boy." The man was a Nara, who kept the camp extremely organized. "Yes, I came to help as you asked," Minato spoke. "Great, I've been quite lazy lately. You can summarize all these reports from the sentinels and activities in the Land of Rain and send them to Konoha," he said, and Minato nodded. Despite the man being very intelligent, he also had the Nara laziness. Not that Minato minded much about that, after all, he was learning a lot. As Minato did this, starting to read reports and writing on a new scroll, to the north, beyond the Land of Rain, the camps of the Stone Village operated similarly to those of Konoha. At that moment, a meeting was happening in one of the easternmost camps, near the Land of Grass and the Land of Rain. There were many camp leaders, all wearing Stone Village headbands, and there was a member with the mark of the Sand Village, who had come north with a group to meet their allies. As they were around a table, one of the Sand ninjas spoke. As you know, we are winning the war, but we are still far from defeating Konoha. That's just a matter of time, the Sand Ninja interrupted with a superior tone. We deployed a new poison a few months ago on the battlefield, and Konoha hasn't even fully dealt with the previous one. They might have captured the first poison we threw on the battlefield in that ambush over a year ago, but this won't happen. He said. This man was Akasuna no Kai, son of Chio, who believed that the Land of Wind was contributing much more to the war than the Land of Stone. Despite some frustration in hearing the Sand Ninja with that tone, nobody there really managed to argue against it because the Sand Country was putting much more pressure on Konoha. The two countries had their own strategies, while the Stone Ninjas had great strength and earth-level jutsus, capable of even changing the structure of a place when they attacked together. The Sand Ninjas specialized in poison, puppets, and even medium-level sealing jutsus, besides having some powerful users with the wind element among their forces. Anyway, it's still not enough, we need to launch a more aggressive attack, he spoke. That's why we're calling you here. Because we are going to attack one of the camps in the north and we need you to do this in the south. The man from the stone village spoke again. The other ninjas nodded, waiting for him to continue, while the Sand Ninja showed interest. We had a target in the north, but he left there over a year ago. We tried to capture him without success, and he has been in other camps for 6 months, according to some intelligence information. The ninja spoke as he placed a photograph of Minato in front of everyone. It was no longer a drawn picture, but an actual photograph of Minato. We've been trying to capture him ever since we knew of his presence, but we never succeeded in fully entering his camp. We've been trying to hunt him down when we realize he's no longer there, but we've had no success and we don't know his real location, if he's still at the border, the ninja spoke. Akasuna no Kai looked curious and a bit confused. What's so special about a child, he said, even thinking it could be the Ninetales Jinchuriki, since the village had changed the Jinchuriki after Mito died almost a year ago, a fact that the whole world knew within a few months due to Mito's fame at that time. The new Ninetales Jinchuriki had been chosen, but Konoha would never make this information public. This boy possesses a special jutsu, one that the second Hokage created. He learned to do it at just 10 or 11 years old, being a rank S. That's why we've been trying to hunt him since then. He must be about 13 years old at this point, the ninja spoke. What jutsu? The Sand Ninja commented. Haration, a teleportation jutsu, replied the Stone Ninja. Our Tsuchikage gave us more details and ordered us to eliminate him at all costs after discussing it with the elders, as we can't let the boy grow, he spoke. Wait, we've heard of something like this in the reports in recent months. Kai seemed to have a realization while hearing this. There are reports of a ninja from Konoha's special squadron who could use a strange technique to teleport, disappear, and appear in various places whenever that squadron acts. This team is primarily acting against us all the time and we haven't been able to take down anyone from them. They call it the Phantom Division. They are extremely skilled, carrying out missions and messing with us on the battlefield for months. We've lost many brothers to that group. The Sand Ninja said this as the others listened, having not faced such a division yet, despite having special groups of Konoha acting in the north against them too. It seems he's in the south, then, the Stone Ninja commented, scratching his chin. Anyway, we'll continue our plan. At least he's still at the western border and we won't need to inform other nations about this. He finished, after all, if Minato went to another place, they would inform other villages, since even though they are enemies in this war, none of them wanted a powerful ninja emerging in the future and would ally to fight him with the enemy. Anyway, we'll continue the plan. We're going to launch a direct attack on the Konoha camp in the north, where the same boy used to act, and I want the Sand Village to do the same in the south. He said, and Kai nodded. I'll talk to the rest of the leaders, we'll do this. He nodded, agreeing with the plan. It's time for Konoha to feel the pressure from both nations at the same time. The Stone Ninja continued talking with his companions after that. We won't be able to pass many ninjas through the Land of Rain, but we'll use the Land of Grass to attack. That's why I'm joining with another camp and we'll start the attack. I want you all to be ready for any response from Konoha at other camps spread across the borders. He warned while the other commanders nodded. Will the Land of Grass let you pass with a large number of troops? Kai raised an eyebrow while asking. Of course, the land of grass will cooperate with us. After all, we have an alliance between two nations.
They won't hinder us while we destroy Konoha, the stone ninja said mockingly.
Alright, I'll return to the south and gather our attack, Kai said as he left the tent while the stone ninja continued conversing with his companions. Now let's get ready, I want hundreds of ninjas prepared to advance against the border of the land of fire. They will be caught by surprise with this number. He spoke at the end as the others nodded.
Chapter 123. Enemy Attack 01. Third-person POV.
Land of Rain, Year 38.
I feel something is wrong,
Lumen murmured behind his mask, standing alongside other teams. They were gathered in a location in the Land of Rain, on high alert, not just with the Phantom Division but also other groups, forming a force of about 400 Konoha shinobi. They were all on a mission to stop another large group that would attack the central camps from the south. But Lumen had the impression something was wrong because, although intelligence had infiltrated the enemy camps and scouts reported a large group moving from the south, they were doing the obvious, something the Sand Village usually doesn't do. It was almost as if they were expecting to meet the Konoha ninjas here.
Are you still murmuring that? Zelda looked at Lumen.
Hey, kid, you've already had a discussion with our leader's leader, he doesn't even want you in the meeting.
You should just accept it, we are subordinate ninjas,
Mirage commented, yet with some pity for Lumen. Lumen had voiced his thoughts when they gathered to discuss the mission, but the leader, who ranked above Alpha here, a man from the Saratobi clan with the pride of being a cousin to the Hokage, had not listened to Lumen and had expelled him from the meeting when Lumen kept insisting.
You're too cautious, kid.
Don't worry, we'll handle them, and we'll return home smoothly, Blade commented, believing that Lumen was being precipitous. Forget this talk, just follow the orders, Alpha told Lumen at that moment. Lumen nodded to his leader, yet he still felt suspicious but had to follow his superior's orders, and they wanted him to accomplish this mission.
Everything seemed calm as the ninjas awaited any movement from the enemy. Then, after a while, a ninja in white robes and a mask appeared in front of Alpha.
He began talking to each team leader until he reached Alpha, of the Phantom Division. The ninja informed them and left to talk to other leaders while Alpha returned to his companions.
The enemy is approaching. Everyone nodded.
You heard. Let's get ready, Horny spoke cheerfully, and everyone started to get into position, awaiting orders. Lumen readied on one side with his companions as Ghost looked at him.
Hey, kid, aren't you going to use your sword yet? He asked Lumen.
It had been a few months since they began training together, and although Lumen had left Ghost's camp, he still continued training and taking tips from him. Yet, Lumen never used the Kenjutsu style on missions, always keeping those strange kunais he had customized himself. These kunais had quickly gained great fame in recent months, as wherever one was found, it meant a member of the Phantom Division had acted on the spot, and almost always it was when a base or group in the area was destroyed. Lumen had become known to the enemy indirectly, but no one knew the real identity behind that mask, so only rumors of a member of short stature acting with the group were discussed by Sand Village intelligence. Everything seemed calm while they still waited for the enemy, until he identified movement in the distance with his Byakugan behind the mask before anyone else.
They're coming. There are at least 400 members. There were at least 60 ANBU team ninjas and another attack group from the camps.
This was a direct battle, something Lumen had never participated in, as his missions were only ambush, infiltration, and extermination of small groups, never a direct battle. Prepare to launch the attack, the man responsible for all 400 Konoha ninjas spoke, as everyone readied, even the Phantom Division was under his orders.
Launch the attack, he ordered quickly. All, hundreds of ninjas, rushed to attack the enemy group.
As they charged into the confrontation, hundreds of kunais began to fly towards them. While the ninjas began to defend themselves, others were hit, but still, almost all managed to advance.
At that moment, the two sides clashed, and a battle began with Konoha easily pushing back the enemies.
This?
Lumen realized something was wrong as he quickly advanced and slashed a ninja's throat with his kunai.
As the man fell to the ground, the ninja transformed into a non-human form. "Hey, this is a puppet," someone exclaimed on the battlefield as another sand ninja turned into a puppet.
"Why are they sending puppets?" Alpha asked Vortex. "How many real ninjas do we have here?"
he inquired as the ninja behind the mask released his Byakugan once more onto the battlefield. "A quarter of them are ninjas controlling all 300 puppets," he said, stunned.
"Damn, why are they doing this? Sending men controlling puppets is suicide," the leader murmured.
The battle continued as Konoha quickly began to gain ground and advanced to the enemy's rear, where the puppet controllers were located. They began to release two of the puppets they were controlling to fight better, as they used a lot of chakra to maintain them, and their goal was just to appear to have numbers and draw the enemy in. They got into a fight a while later but were quickly massacred by the 400 Konoha ninjas. The battle lasted at least 15 minutes, while Konoha lost 40 ninjas precisely because they had to face the puppets.
"Damn, what's this now?"
The squad leaders were quickly called by the operation leader. "What's the situation?" they asked, while keeping some enemy ninjas alive to extract information from them. Before the leader could say anything, frustrated, a mocking voice came from the enemies held captive there. "Ah, you really fell for our trap." The ninja began to laugh, looking at the leaders who frowned. "What do you mean by that?" the operation leader asked.
"Very simple. While you focused your forces here, we're launching an attack on your camps to the south.
By the time you get there, the place will be completely destroyed." He started laughing. There was no way for the Konoha ninjas to reach there at this distance, so there was no problem in speaking out, and he wanted to see his enemies frustrated before dying.
"Damn, this is bad, sir. They lured us here by placing puppets among the group.
If he's telling the truth, they might have launched an attack while our major forces from the south are here."
A ninja murmured. "This is bad.
"We should head back now," he said.
When he looked at the enemy ninja, he was already choking on poison installed in his teeth.
"It seems they were just cannon fodder to deceive us, coming here even knowing they would die," the ninja said.
"I knew something was wrong," Lumen murmured from a distance, hearing the entire conversation with Haki.
"Now we must focus on the south. If we head there now, we'll be too late," he murmured, looking at his team while Alpha was still talking with the operation leader.
"What's up, kid?"
Echo asked, observing Lumen's thoughtful behavior while the rest of the Phantom Division discussed among themselves. "I believe I can take us to the southern camp, where the attack is likely occurring," Lumen spoke up, surprising everyone.
"Are you sure?
A while ago you struggled to teleport more than 2 people from one side to the other," Mirage asked.
"That's true, but that was over a year ago.
Now I have much finer chakra control and my chakra pool is much larger than before," Lumen said before turning to everyone on the team.
"I can teleport 12 people." "Well, if you can send us, we should talk to Alpha," Whisper said. Alpha came to inform about the situation, and his team began to discuss Lumen's plan. The operation leader looked at Lumen and nodded, approving the plan. "All right, we can do this," Alpha spoke and asked an ANBU ninja passing by to approach.
"Find this scroll for the leader, informing about our situation while we head to the south."
"Let's go," he said in the end.
Alpha wasn't very fond of that leader, he had already delayed them too much, so he took it upon himself to act with his team to avoid wasting more time explaining how they would get there. Everyone touched each other's shoulders, linking Lumen from both sides, creating a chain. Lumen clapped his hands together and closed his eyes, focusing. In the next moment, all 12 people vanished, reappearing in a forest near the southern camp, where Lumen had marked with one of his signs as he passed from camp to camp along the border. Quickly, the sound of explosions began to come from a distance. "Seems like I was right," Lumen murmured. "Let's go, we can't waste time," Alpha said, and they dashed forward, advancing as they saw hundreds of ninjas fighting each other, with hundreds of bodies already on the ground. Lumen saw many puppets and even poisonous gas being released into the air from somewhere in the camp as the sand ninjas wore masks, with the Konoha ninjas suffering from the yellow gas. "This gas, we must stop it. It's being sent from the back of the camp." Alpha analyzed the situation, hurrying to help the camp. "There's a type of giant scorpion made like the puppets. There are 2 of them there," Alpha, Lumen sensed through Haki and warned.
So that's how they're causing this chaos. Can you handle this, Lumen? He asked as Lumen nodded. Leave it to me, Lumen informed.
Lumen saw how reinforced that place was and the ninjas who had already seen it try to advance through the flanks, but the place was heavily fortified, with at least 50 ninjas protecting all sides around those two scorpions releasing the gas.
Lumen wasted no time and threw his kunai into the air.
The next moment, as the ninjas controlling the shell released the poison, they saw the kunai falling to the ground and embedding itself.
Wait, that kunai.
They murmured, recognizing the strange design of the kunai, and the next moment, the hooded ninja appeared. He picked up the kunai and lunged at the nearest ninja, cutting him down before he could react.
Enemy attack, they shouted while controlling the shell. Lumen began to eliminate them one by one, clearing the path as several other enemy ninjas reappeared to help maintain the attack.
Lumen had to back off slightly, seeing more than 30 ninjas standing in front of him. He had to change his approach. I'll be almost out of chakra after sending one of these, but I have no choice. He murmured, looking at the enemies between him and the scorpion shells. He raised his hand and began to form a chakra ball, infusing it with wind chakra. The Rasengan began to generate a shrill sound, creating propellers around it, as the wind quickly began to spread.
What is that?
The ninjas murmured, seeing the jutsu grow without hand seals in Lumen's hand, made of pure chakra, as they had never heard of anyone with that capability in the war.
Quick, we must protect ourselves, this looks dangerous. The enemies exclaimed and began to summon new puppets.
Lumen managed to complete the Rasen Shuriken for the first time since he came to the war. He held it circulating with his hand raised above his head, with the propellers spinning faster than ever, creating a wind that even made the trees around bend.
What is that thing?
The enemy ninjas grew increasingly concerned, as the wind was very powerful and the shrill sound was not at all comfortable. Even the poison was being released more forcefully.
But Lumen didn't waste any more time.
He simply moved his hand above his head and launched the Rasen Shuriken, heading in a line of enemies and creating a line of destruction where it passed.
He can launch that.
They murmured, but it was already too late. Even as they placed the puppets in front, it struck the first one and then exploded, expanding, decimating the puppets and spreading over tens of meters, catching the ninjas and the giant scorpions, creating an explosion that affected the entire camp in that area, while everyone looked on at the huge explosion next to the camp. All the enemy and Konoha ninjas tried to protect themselves, placing their hands in front, wondering what was happening there.
Was that Lumen?
Vortex murmured, stunned, looking with his Byakugan.
Wait, the kid did that? How could he? What kind of jutsu was that? Zelda was shocked by it. The explosion continued until it finally began to calm down, creating a huge crater. Chapter 124, Enemy Attack 02. Third-person POV. Land of Fire, Year 38.
The camp fell silent after that explosion. Those who were unaware that Lumen was there were stunned as the explosion began to subside, revealing a huge crater amidst the smoke of the wreckage. What the hell just happened? Both the Leaf and Sand ninjas murmured in fear. Our scorpions were destroyed. The Sand ninjas finally acknowledged their situation.
Is this bad? Is there anyone among the Konoha ninjas who can do this? They murmured. Was that Lumen?
Ghost whispered, not believing his own words.
Lumen. You hid your strength. Alpha couldn't help but comment, surprised as he defeated his opponent.
Lumen appeared at that moment in the camp, satisfied with the explosion he had caused. He saw both enemies and allies dazed and decided to act quickly. I'm almost out of chakra now, but my body's stamina is still full, so I can still cause some damage without using my fruit. Minato thought as he exploded the ground while advancing to the first enemy he spotted using just taijutsu, releasing all the weight seals on his body at that moment. The Ohio ninja could only be surprised while he was fighting with all the ninjas from Konoha. Lumen was advancing at full speed and reappeared next to an enemy, and punched him so hard that the sound of bones breaking was heard throughout the area. The ninja was really thrown like a doll, exploding on the ground several meters away. Lumen moved again without wasting time, advancing to the second ninja, who tried to attack him with a puppet having a blade arm. Making a vertical cut, the boy quickly dodged and kicked the puppet, breaking it in half and quickly reaching the ninja, killing him, as Minato's punch was so strong that the ninja's head was separated from the neck. Not even the Konoha ninjas could react properly while the short-statured masked ninja was reaping lives of enemies in the part of the camp that was not affected by the poisonous gas. What strength! Some ninjas were surprised by the power his punches generated, as the only ninja known to have such physical strength was Princess Tsunade Senju. But here was Lumen destroying ninjas with one punch and throwing them like ragdolls. The Phantom Division did not fall behind their companion. As an elite team, they quickly stood out and began to dominate the battlefield, especially after the poison was neutralized. They began to gain the upper hand over the Sand Ninjas. Lumen continued running through the battlefield and killing enemies wherever he went without using chakra, and this continued until the enemy ninjas began to see that the situation was not favorable for them. "Hey, we should retreat," the leader spoke, seeing yet another one of his ninjas being killed with that explosive punch from the masked boy. They had come with more than 600 ninjas, and even against a larger number, since the poisonous gas had given them an advantage on the battlefield to face more than 1,000 Konoha ninjas, this was lost and now they were left with less than 200 ninjas. The Sand Ninjas nodded as they began to quickly group together, and started launching jutsus, while the Leaf Ninjas also launched their jutsus. A combined set of fire and air clashed against each other. "You go, we'll hold them off." The Sand Ninjas stayed to sacrifice themselves while the other ninjas fled. The leader looked at the 30 ninjas who were performing the jutsu and nodded. They quickly left the camp. However, Minato, behind the mask of Lumen, would not let them leave like that. He had recovered some of his chakra at this moment and used a mark left in the forest near the outpost of that camp, while waiting for the ninjas to arrive. "Let's see how you deal with this," Minato murmured and began to jump into the air, staying out of sight of the enemy while using Jeppo, and it was very unlikely that they would see someone flying in the sky. It wasn't long before 150 ninjas appeared running in the forest. There was no one to stop them. After all, they had eliminated all the sentinels to reach the southern camp. He saw the group and began to make several hand signs. He puffed his cheek and spewed fire on the enemy running below him. The flames erupted from his mouth and morphed into a dragon's head, an Uchiha jutsu he had learned over the past few months from someone. "Enemy attack!" The ninjas exclaimed upon hearing the dragon's roar as the flames descended at full speed. They quickly used wind-type jutsu to counter the flames. The wind is disadvantageous against fire. The ninjas combined their jutsus to stop the flames, yet Lumen launched more dragons, preventing them from stopping all of them as the forest erupted into flames. Who is doing this? How can they cast a jutsu from the sky? The leader questioned while dodging the dragons that were exploding the forest and consuming more sand ninjas. Lumen couldn't keep launching this forever, so he decided to descend, still maintaining just a bit of chakra, with the ninjas unable to see him due to their desperation to return to their country. There were still 120 of their ninjas. While they passed through the destroyed area, the last ninja felt a hand grabbing his shoulder and noticed the masked one holding him while he was startled. "Where do you think you're going?" the super strong masked one asked. The ninja barely had time to react before being punched and exploding against a tree, falling with several broken bones. And Lumen didn't stop there. He created Chidori in his hand and began chasing the ninjas as he began slicing through the last of them. The ninjas only felt the electric discharge coming before being pierced, with Lumen continuing to advance against them. "Hey, Lumen! Is it you causing this chaos?" A voice emerged as Ghost and Blade appeared to hunt the fleeing ninjas as well. Lumen didn't respond as he continued advancing with his Chidori before his chakra ran out. It seems he's eager to hunt down the enemy. "We can't lag behind," Ghost exclaimed, drawing his sword, and Blade did the same. As members of the Hatake clan, both began advancing against the enemy. They continued this pursuit, while the Sand Ninjas launched jutsus to stop them and continued doing everything to kill as many as they could. They kept hunting the ninjas until they reached the outpost, which in the end, still managed to leave the fire country with slightly fewer than 100 Sand Ninjas. Lumen stopped at the outpost, taking somewhat irregular breaths, since he was more tired from reaching his chakra limit than from the stamina he spent. He sighed as his companions approached him. "Hey, are you okay?" Blade asked. "Yes," he said before turning to the camp near them. The outpost was devastated. Everyone there was dead, having been caught off guard by 600 ninjas.
Looks like we arrived too late, Lumen murmured. We can't do anything, Lumen. Let's go back to see Alpha's orders, they said. Lumen nodded. Let's return to the camp and talk to Alpha, he said, and they returned jumping between the trees. They managed to avoid the worst possible tragedy, but the poison had reached many people from the leaf. While doctors in nearby camps began to try to control the situation, a group of ninjas was interrogating the enemies who were captured alive and starting to make damage reports in control. Once again, Minato murmured, seeing again the scene of death among the Konoha ninjas. Many people were crying and others were frustrated. The Phantom Squad stayed in their corner looking at the situation silently and not celebrating or joking as usual. After all, it was quite a sad scene. In the end, the boy was right, Falcon, his academy teacher said, and no one could disagree with him. I'll never doubt the kid's instincts again, Mirage murmured. They couldn't say anything more, as Alpha approached the group at that moment. We weren't very lucky here, he began. We fell into their trap, while they sent a group disguised with puppets to the central camp, making all our most powerful troops go out there. They sent their real force for a surprise attack on this side, and now you can see the result. We were lucky that Lumen acted against those machines of theirs, he said, looking at Lumen. Their plan was to spread the poison throughout the region to hit the nearby camps, leaving this area completely uninhabited. Alpha explained everything he discovered with the other leaders. These bastards, they were even using masks from the Rain Ninjas, Zelda commented, extremely frustrated. Well, Captain, is there anything we need to do now? Whisper asked. There's not much to do. Let's provide assistance, just be careful with those affected by the new poison, so you don't get contaminated too, while we wait for the other medical teams to come from the central area, he said. The group nodded and began to assist in the camp as best they could. Minato had managed to gather a large amount of medical supplies from other camps. Then 2 days passed as they finally finished stabilizing the camp. A messenger from the north arrived delivering a scroll to all the leaders, and Alpha was one of them. Alpha took the scroll and returned to his team with a somber tone. It seems it wasn't just this camp that was attacked, he said, drawing everyone's attention. What? Did the Sand Village attack another? Ghost raised his voice. No, it wasn't the sand that attacked, Alpha replied. It was the stone, to the north, at the camp closest to them, he said. Everyone nodded, but Minato quickly went on alert. He stood up and called everyone's attention. I'm going to the north, he said, and disappeared the next moment without even letting his teammates react, leaving the entire team stunned. What was that? Mirage asked. Minato's behavior had practically disobeyed an order, but Alpha just sighed. The boy has his team in the north. So, let him see it for himself, Alpha murmured, and everyone nodded, understanding. Minato reappeared near the camp and the training area where Hanabi and Mikoto usually trained. He quickly smelled burning and could see that the forest had been on fire for days. He quickly advanced to the camp, and it didn't take long for him to arrive at the site, feeling frustrated with the sight he was having at that moment. Half the camp was destroyed, with people still picking up bodies here and there. There were giant footprint marks, probably a summoning by Jiraiya. These bastards! He couldn't help but murmur. While he was in the south, the stone also made their move. He now had to see if everyone he knew there was alright. Chapter 125, Hatred 01. Third-person POV. Land of Fire, Year 38. Minato approached the battlefield and passed by several explosion-created holes while many ninjas were still helping the destroyed camp. He approached where Jiraiya was issuing orders. Jiraiya seemed fine, but he had a frustrated look on his face. His gaze fell towards Minato, who was walking up to him without hesitation, with an intense look. His brow furrowed a little at this. You can do what I said. I want to talk to my student over there, he finally said to the 6 shinobi surrounding him. They nodded before jumping off to carry out his orders. Jiraiya sighed and looked at Minato coming closer. You finally came, he murmured. Mikoto and Hanabi are okay? Minato asked immediately. They are. But Hanabi got a little hurt, Jiraiya replied.
I'll go see them, Minato said immediately, moving his body towards a corner where there was a large tent, sensing their presence there. Jiraiya didn't say anything as Minato simply advanced and entered the place, feeling it filled with the injured. He saw several cots where various shinobi were groaning in pain. His companions were in the middle of the place, with Makoto sitting in front of Hanabi, who was lying on a cot. Makoto's eyes widened in surprise as she saw Minato approaching. "Minato!" Makoto said, standing up as she saw him coming closer. "How is she?" he asked, checking on Hanabi. She seemed okay but a bit hurt, with her arm bandaged. "She got hit by some kunai, but she'll be fine," Makoto murmured, and Minato nodded. "How did this happen?" he asked in a neutral tone. "The attack started while we were at ease in the camp. Then dozens of ninjas arrived and began attacking us. It was chaos, but we quickly regrouped and started a counterattack. We ended up facing some groups with other jonin while Jiraiya-sensei was fighting most of the enemies. Our adversaries retreated after we took down most of their group," she explained before looking at Hanabi. "She got hurt and fell in the fight," she said. Minato was silent, feeling angry and frustrated for not being there. "There's something else." Makoto spoke, her voice sounding even more cautious. Minato looked at her without saying anything, waiting for her to continue. "Do you remember Bake?" she asked. "He's in a critical state, and he was calling your name the last time I heard," she murmured with a cautious and sad tone. Minato immediately sensed the boy's presence in one of the closed-off sections and began walking there right away. He saw a curtain covering the bed and a nurse attending to another patient in front of it. "Hey, what are you doing? You can't go in there." The medical ninja immediately protested, but Minato didn't care as he opened the curtain. There, the boy looked completely different from how he remembered. Bake was a year older than Minato, and during their time at the camp, the boy always followed him around, asking questions and calling Minato his big brother, wanting to be like him. Seeing him in that state was like an illusion, wondering how the boy who was so cheerful ended up in such a critical condition. A part of his body was no longer there, and he was groaning weakly, seemingly unable to lose consciousness with whatever he was going through. His eyes moved at this moment, opening weakly as he turned his head towards the entrance, seeing the blonde-haired boy. "Minato, is that you?" Bake said softly. Minato was in shock seeing this and unconsciously stepped closer. "You see." The boy began to speak, a small smile appearing as he saw the person he was waiting to see. He seemed quite breathless, starting to cough a bit before continuing. "I wanted to see you because I took down one of those bastards," he said, sounding proud. Minato didn't know what had happened to him but felt that he was dying, his life draining rapidly. It was very likely the boy wouldn't live much longer. It was a shock to him. "I took down one of them, Minato. I finally became a man, but it hurt so much," the boy murmured. "I feel so cold. Cough, I'm so scared, Minato." So scared. Cough, he tried to look at Minato at that moment. "Hey, you can't be in here. You need to leave immediately before I call the guards." The nurse entered, immediately complaining, as she looked at the boy's condition. "I said I would take one down. Now I can become like you," he continued to repeat. "Are you listening to me? Get out of here and leave the patient." The woman spoke again, and Minato finally turned to her with a glint in his eye, causing her to immediately step back, frightened by the intensity. Minato took a deep breath and turned back to Bake, pulling a seal from his pocket and placing it on the boy's forehead, making him fall unconscious immediately with the fuinjutsu Minato had learned in recent months. He saw that the boy could finally rest and simply turned his back, starting to leave, passing the still cautious and frightened medical ninja as he headed to the far end of the tent. He didn't need to know much about what had happened there. The boy must have faced a dangerous group while being surrounded. According to him, he took one of them down but must have been caught by a paper bomb and was now dying. Makoto called out to him as he passed by, but Minato simply ignored her as he continued outside. Jiraiya seemed to be waiting on that side, looking at Minato with eyes filled with fury, causing Jiraiya to raise an eyebrow. Minato walked up to him, removing a scroll from his pocket, opening it in front of Jiraiya, and handing it to him. "Mark which camps attacked us," he said immediately. It was no secret that ninjas from all nations had maps with the exact locations of all the camps on each border, thanks to intelligence teams that gathered this information by infiltrating the borders. "You can't be serious," Jiraiya said in a grim tone, a little surprised by the boy's demand, already imagining what he wanted to do. "Just mark the location," Minato repeated in a rather disrespectful tone, but he didn't care at this moment. Jiraiya gave him a disapproving look before shaking his head. "I won't let you go on a suicide attack," he said in a stern tone. "This wasn't your fault this time." Minato didn't seem to care about Jiraiya's words as he gave up on asking for the information. "If you don't want to tell me, it doesn't matter. I'll go to the nearest camp in the southeast," Minato said simply, leaving Jiraiya behind as he walked forward. "Wait, boy, you can't act like this." Jiraiya raised his voice again as other ninjas in the camp passing by looked at the commander raising his voice at his student. Minato stopped, more furious than ever. He even thought about listening to Jiraiya, but since coming to this world, he had experienced various feelings: anger, disappointment, frustration, pride, love, and many others. All these feelings had accompanied him since the beginning of his journey. But now, there was a new feeling, the feeling of hatred. He thought about listening to his sensei, but a thought came to his mind at that moment, making him decide what to do. "I'm going to kill them." This seemed to shake his soul unconsciously. He didn't even notice when an explosion erupted from him, catching Jiraiya by surprise. Being the closest, and the force that came from Minato soon began to invade the entire camp with yellow lightning. Minato didn't even realize what he was doing while Jiraiya put his hand up, a wind blowing from the boy in a way he had never seen before. What surprised him even more was that there wasn't a single trace of chakra in this explosion while the Conqueror's hockey lightning invaded all the places, catching everyone by surprise, wondering what was happening. Minato, still lost in his single thought without noticing what was happening around him, simply disappeared using his Raijin seal, which he had kept in a corner of the rain country. Jiraiya saw the boy disappear while keeping his gaze on the place, wondering what that was until suddenly he saw someone collapsing next to him, unconscious. "What is this?" He looked at a fainted Chunin. "Hey, what's happening?" someone exclaimed from a corner, seeing their comrades falling to the ground. "They're collapsing unconscious." "Are we being attacked again?" another shouted, holding onto a fallen person. "They're just fainting, but where did this attack come from?" a Jonin said, touching the neck of an unconscious person to check if they were okay. "Commander Jiraiya." "1/3 of the camp is down," a Jonin approached Jiraiya immediately to inform him. The camp had begun to see its shinobi falling, even if only genins and some chunins. A large part of the camp was unconscious at this moment. Jiraiya returned to where Minato had disappeared, wondering what the hell that was. Meanwhile, where the sun hardly reached the earth, Minato appeared immediately. There was no rain, but the sky was still closed as always. He wasted no time and didn't care about simply acting in that place. He then jumped forward in the middle of the rain country, advancing into the sky in one movement. His body began to shine, and he disappeared in a line of light. This caught the attention of everyone there, but Minato didn't care. The ninjas who saw this only saw the light rising into the sky before it started to move north at high speed, standing out in the darkness and disappearing shortly afterward. Minato was so enraged that he had a desire for destruction at that moment, with the intention of massacring an entire camp. In a camp further southeast of the land of Earth's border, the place seemed to be in the midst of a celebration. After all, their attack, along with another camp, had been successful. Despite some losses, they had still managed to take down more Konoha ninjas. The Earth ninjas laughed and exchanged exclamations with each other. "We caught them completely by surprise," shouted one of them, raising a cup in celebration. "They thought they could beat us in this war, but we showed them the strength of the Earth. Konoha better surrender." Yeah, that attack was perfect. They barely had a chance to react before retreating. "Don't forget our fallen. They fought for our village, but today, we drink in their memory too." It was already night, and as they seemed quite euphoric, no one noticed the presence arriving above the camp at that moment. A projectile was flying with full force toward the camp, while a strange kunai with a Fuinjutsu symbol was embedded in the ground. In the night sky, without anyone imagining the terror that would befall the camp by the end of that night. Chapter 126, Hatred 02. Third-person POV. Land of Fire, Year 38. A kunai? A ninja with keen perception noticed the object stuck in the middle of the camp. Time froze at that moment as all the ninjas looked at the kunai simultaneously, and a person appeared wearing a cloak and mask like an ambu. As everyone quickly tried to understand what was happening, the ninja began making a series of hand seals, finishing with the ram seal. As soon as he completed his jutsu, an explosion of light began to emerge, catching everyone by surprise, and the entire camp lit up in the middle of the night, alerting anyone miles away. Ah! I'm blind. I can't see. We're being attacked. The ninjas immediately lost their vision due to a jutsu of pure yang, which Minato had developed over the past few months, starting to use his fourth affinity, one he had not fully explored but had begun to create jutsu with it using light through his own chakra. Some ninjas, one of the few who by some luck had not looked at the ninja who invaded the camp at this moment, watched all their comrades screaming while feeling agony in their gaze due to the bright flash the ninja created. Only Minato's original body could use his fruit, so he developed a jutsu for his clones to also attack with light as happened now. After all, it was just the clone and the original was still in the air. The ninjas soon realized a rain of kunais coming towards the camp, while Minato released in the air and made hand seals of the shadow clones as they multiplied while falling. Some were hit by the kunai while they could not see, but most of them fell throughout the camp. The few ninjas who could notice this looked all around, before someone appeared at their side and had their throat slit at that moment. As Minato disappeared the next moment, he began using the kunais teleporting as he passed through the ninjas still trying to see. Minato initiated a massacre among them, without compassion, as the ninjas quickly began to notice their comrades being killed while emitting their last scream of agony from all sides of the camp. We're being attacked. Everyone into Earth bases. They shouted as they began to make jutsu even with their eyes still blind. In various corners of the camp, stone-style jutsu began to form while stone cocoons began to form to protect them. Some tried to hit the enemy with offensive jutsu and ended up catching their own comrades in the process. Minato was disappearing from any enemy jutsu while continuing to advance and killing any ninja he encountered. He was not feeling any pity for them, he just had the thought of killing and finishing each one of them while his hatred took over his actions. He saw that he had killed more than 150 ninjas while others were already approaching the camp, since the stone worked with a system similar to the leaf following several sentinels among the camps protecting the border, while most of the ninjas in the camp were quick in making cocoons to protect themselves. It's a shame I haven't started learning armament hockey yet, otherwise I could simply destroy most of them, but let's see if my physical strength can't destroy some stones. Minato couldn't help thinking while mocking the stone ninjas trying to protect themselves. The first one still affected by the flash from Minato's clone soon felt an explosion coming from outside to his cocoon, while as much as he could not see, the cracks being formed in front of him were something he could not ignore. Minato blew up the stone without the ninja being able to do anything. He entered and punched the man's head while breaking his neck, before disappearing to go to the next. He moved on to another, but felt with his observation hockey kunais with explosive seals flying towards him as they exploded in the middle of the camp. Where is he? He's disappeared. A ninja asked beside the comrade who launched the kunais. Behind you. Minato's voice came after he used a kunai with his seal behind the men and quickly killed them with a clean cut. Minato went back to attacking the enemy cocoons while they still hadn't recovered their vision, taking advantage of the time that new ninjas didn't appear. More and more cocoons were destroyed, some he really couldn't break, and ended up creating a small Rasengan, destroying them and killing the stone ninja. Please, don't kill me. Akunoichi had her cocoon broken as she fell backwards with Minato advancing against her. I have a family, she exclaimed with tears streaming from her eyes, but Minato did not appear to be stopping. You killed Konoha ninjas when you had the chance, just die with pride. Minato murmured angrily, while the woman continued to play the victim. However, he disappeared the next moment, with kunais flying from behind him, and as he disappeared, the kunais from his own allies killed the woman by hitting her in the head. As Minato once again killed the ninjas arriving at the camp using his seals.
And he went back to destroying more cocoons. What's the situation? A jonin asked as he approached the camp with a combat group, wanting to know who the enemies were. My lord, there is a single enemy.
The ninja who worked for a division like Konoha's Umbu to gather information began to report the situation.
What do you mean, just one ninja is attacking us?
The man exclaimed in surprise.
And why hasn't anyone killed them yet? He exclaimed in dismay, not accepting that a single person continued to create the explosions they were hearing from there.
He has already eliminated much of the camp, but all the others are in camouflage mode with Earth-style barrier jutsu around them. Everyone was involved like this.
The Earth Umbu spoke. What? Why are they letting the enemy do whatever they want? The commanding ninja shouted, very displeased. I don't know.
When we arrived, they were already like this, and it might have something to do with the huge flash we saw. It's possible that they were blinded by the light. The ninja informed and continued.
Moreover, the enemy wears a Konoha Umbu outfit.
He's devastating the camp with his super strength and strange jutsus. He can create a chakra ball destroying earth element jutsu, and the strangest thing is his jutsu that can make him appear in various places around the camp. This is preventing anyone from stopping him.
He reported. What did you say?
The commanding ninja soon realized.
He's here then, we must stop him.
The man said in the end as he stepped deeper into the trees to gain more speed. After all, the target they were after finally appeared and is on their territory, making a retaliation due to their last attack. The ninjas arrived at the camp, while the place was filled with bodies exclusively from the Earth Village, and as soon as they were going to look for the adversary, Minato appeared in the middle of the team of 12 ninjas, killing 2 before they could react and disappearing.
Hey, be careful. He's using the kunais on the ground.
The ninja who had never fought against Minato, despite the rumors the superiors had said, realized, although it seemed a bit late. They quickly entered a disadvantageous battle, with Minato attacking them one by one after he cut one, disappearing to kill another right after. It didn't take long for the ninja leader to notice that he was the only one alive there besides those who were still hiding. Minato appeared in front of him a moment later, while he mesmerized him. His cloak was full of hot blood still dripping. The stone ninja couldn't help but be scared at that moment. He didn't think he would meet that target of the superiors as someone so relentless.
Are you some kind of monster?
He couldn't help but murmur, and despite being an elite jonin, he ended up dying the next moment by Minato. After all, he had already accepted his defeat. The place became silent after that, while Minato looked at all the bodies on the ground. At least half the camp he had eliminated, being more than 300 ninjas killed. He continued for a while. Of course he wanted to kill all the others, but his chakra was running out.
Should I use my fruit? Minato was debating at that moment. Better not. I can't do that yet. He decided.
More and more groups were arriving at that moment, with them considering going out and returning to the fire frontier. I feel so cold, cough. I'm scared, Minato, very scared, cough. The words of Bake came back to be heard in his mind. His anger took over his rationality again. His fist was clenching, and he ended up deciding to start acting, even if he had to reach the limit of his chakra pool. New stone ninjas began to approach the camp as everything became calm. There were not yet reinforcements from other camps that were also approaching.
What's the situation?
One of them asked, but no one knew, as there was no reconnaissance team among them.
We'll have to check as soon as we arrive. We need to see how many enemies there are and act quickly. It seems Konoha was quicker to launch a counterattack than we thought, another murmured. We have no time to mourn now.
Let's just kill all those damned from the land of fire, the leader commented, cursing the surprise attack, but nothing could be done at the moment, so they continued advancing. How strange, one of them murmured, noticing some branches in the trees placed quite oddly, but he didn't care. His only urgency was to reach the camp and destroy all the enemy Konoha ninjas. However, as soon as they stepped near that strange branch, it transformed, and an explosion from a transformation jutsu caught the ninjas by surprise, with Minato emerging and piercing the nearest ninja.
Enemy attack, they shouted as their comrade died.
Then, more smoke explosions emerged around the area, with other Minato clones appearing and starting to kill them, while the ninjas quickly launched a counterattack that eliminated the clones, but their team had already been largely destroyed by the time they were destroyed.
Damn it, they're setting traps and attacking us even from here, the man cursed. And, even with anger, he just shook his head in front of his dead comrades and looked forward. Let's continue. Pay attention to anything that might be a transformation. They entered the camp a moment later and Minato did not know how much time had passed. He quickly began attacking the arriving teams in reduced numbers while eliminating everyone with his arsenal of jutsus that did not use much chakra, with a large part of his chakra in transformation jutsus, as he continued hiding clones and eliminating any ninja that approached after the last team that appeared. Eliminating the rest of the teams that appeared with the Raijin, he looked at the place with even more bodies scattered around. Minato was breathing irregularly and tired, but that was not enough while a glow of anger still emitted in his eye. Raising his hand, he began to create his last chakra as his pool allowed. He completed his Raisin Shuriken as his last act and launched it upwards, where there were more stone ninjas inside their cocoons, as even half an hour after Minato had conjured a light jutsu, they still had not recovered their vision and had not had time to know how to die, while a huge explosion emerged in the middle of the camp, eliminating most of them, while others were buried due to the earth explosion that the Raisin Shuriken created, deforming the entire terrain. Minato could barely stand after that and felt many other teams coming here. In the end, he had killed about 450 ninjas, but decided he could no longer fight. Barely standing, he used just his physical strength to jump into the air and try to leave there without any problems while flying through the sky. Chapter 127, Hatred 03. Third-person POV. Land of Fire, Year 38. The next day, Makoto noticed a slight movement at her side as Hanabi began to regain consciousness. Turning her gaze to the side, she looked at her companion with surprise. "Makoto," she murmured. "Are you okay, Hanabi?" Makoto asked with some concern. "A bit sore and dizzy, but fine." "What happened?" Hanabi asked. "You fainted in the middle of the battle, but we managed to protect you." "You just need to rest a bit," Makoto said, and Hanabi nodded. "How are things? What was the outcome of the fight?" Hanabi inquired, concerned about the camp. "We suffered a great loss. Many of our ninjas died and Sensei is working hard to keep everything under control. A camp in the south was also attacked by the village of the area and Minato showed up here," Makoto commented, appearing somewhat hesitant. "Where is he?" Hanabi asked, sensing something was wrong. "I don't know," Makoto admitted. "He came here, went to see you and that friend of his, before leaving." "I heard he went north alone," Makoto admitted, leaving Hanabi stunned. "What is he doing?" Hanabi asked. "No one knows, but Jiraiya-sensei issued an order to look for him." "He went on his own, disobeying an order," Makoto said, causing Hanabi to look quite surprised at this. "He's fighting alone?" Hanabi tried to sit up but her arm was still injured. "Yes, there's nothing we can do." Something strange also happened before Minato disappeared yesterday. Makoto continued. "A wind with lightning struck the entire camp, while various people began to fall as if in a genjutsu. I almost fell as I saw medics from this tent starting to collapse one after the other with most of the conscious patients also fainting. Everyone thought it was an enemy attack, but things calmed down a moment later. Then Jiraiya said the situation was under control, with someone releasing a chakra explosion and that he had gone north. She said, even though some sensors in the camp mentioned they didn't feel the chakra from the wave. "He's not in danger?" Hanabi said, worried about Minato. "I don't know, but I've never seen Minato so upset. We don't know where he is." Makoto murmured. "We should help him." Hanabi insisted while Makoto shook the gourd for her. "I don't think we would do more than what Sensei's teams are doing." Makoto responded with a tone of sadness and frustration. "I hope he's okay," Hanabi said at the end while Makoto agreed with her. Although both were training, Minato always seemed much stronger with them. While they had to stay at the camp helping, it was no secret to them that Minato was part of a special Umbu squad in the south.
Meanwhile, Jiraiya was also thinking about Minato at this time. The boy had disappeared and there was still no news about him, acting recklessly whatever he was doing, but unable to do anything beyond the group and the intelligence of the North getting accurate information about the boy. This began to change as he was organizing the camp casualties in a damage control that an Umbu reappeared in front of him.
Commander Jiraiya. The man greeted. Report from the North? Jiraiya asked, raising an eyebrow.
Yes, the Earth's troops are all agitated across the region.
The Umbu spoke. What has my student done? Jiraiya asked immediately. We couldn't get close to the camp, surveillance is constant. But he attacked the camp alone and eliminated more than 400 Earth ninjas.
Even the Umbu could hardly believe those words.
More than 400? That's madness.
Jiraiya was staggered by that.
Yes.
He launched a jutsu of such a high scale that it lit up the entire sky at the Earth's border. I heard about him doing the same jutsu on the south side, when the reports came in from that attack.
The Umbu said.
Yes, I heard too, and to think he had another S-rank jutsu in his arsenal, despite having already used it on our S-rank mission. He spoke, still recalling the crater his student had created. He could generate an explosion like a mini Bijudama, which is unbelievable for a human, but a 10-year-old boy could already do this. With Raijin, Minato was a monster without precedent. He might already be surpassing the second Hokage himself.
I want to know where he is. Did he manage to escape?
Jiraiya asked. He escaped, as far as we know, but no one has been able to find him. The Umbu declared, making Jiraiya nod in response.
All right, you may go now.
Jiraiya requested.
Yes.
The ninja disappeared, leaving Jiraiya alone with his thoughts.
I can't leave him alone. Jiraiya murmured, imagining Minato was consumed by anger.
He stepped out of his tent and called someone to take his place. I will be heading to the Land of Rain as well, he stated as his men nodded.
That's...
Kitsuchi was reviewing the report at one of the central camps on the border of the Land of Earth, frowning at the information.
One person killed 450 ninjas alone?
The person beside him looked at the report in disbelief.
He was already that strong.
Anoki's son was a bit frustrated by this. They had lost nearly an entire camp, turning their small victory with the surprise attack on Konoha into a disaster. It was no secret in figuring out who was responsible after seeing the kunais with seals, immediately requesting them to be destroyed before the boy could return while everyone was distracted. What are we going to do now? The stone soldier asked. We can't let this happen again. We will have to increase the watch on the border even more. Besides, we need to find out how he managed to get through all the watches around the place without anyone noticing, because the first contact of him appearing was attacking the camp.
I want you to look for him even in the Land of Rain. He ordered. But can our men handle this boy?
Did you see the jutsu he unleashed?
Yes.
I saw the damage he did. That's why I will send someone to help stop him, Kitsuchi spoke with a serious tone. The meeting continued as the commander discussed the security of the camps and how they would replenish the one destroyed by Minato. Thus, Anoki's son, in charge of the border serving his father, asked everyone to leave. When he called an Umbu to deliver a letter, the Earth Village Umbu left and went deep into the Land of Earth until he found a small camp in a forest full of security with at least 50 Jonin ninjas, while there was a young man in the middle of the place wearing red armor. The Umbu passed by the ninjas and went to the man to hand him Kitsuchi's letter. This was the Four Tails Jinchuriki, known as Rashi, a ninja specialized in the lava element. What do we have here? Maybe I could finally leave this camp. It's so tedious, he spoke. After all, he was always monitored the whole time while numerous security guards took care of his safety. After reading the letter, with an order for him to go to the Land of Rain, he smiled.
Well, then I shall hunt an ant, he murmured, unconcerned about the possible 2S rank jutsus his target possessed.
He began to prepare to leave the camp, while a group of 20 Jonins followed him. Meanwhile, in AIM, the Land of Rain, Hanzo was sitting in his room when he received the report from his intelligence. Although not detailed, it explained a lot, especially about the two flashes lighting up the night sky and the information of an attack by a single person devastating an entire camp, while he could teleport through few ninjutsu symbols. So, it's the boy. He finally decided to act. Hanzo murmured. It had been almost 2 years since he had seen any activity from the boy he was interested in. He nodded in satisfaction as he stood up. His men were curious about their lord's action. I will be heading to the north of the country. After all, the Earth Village is becoming quite bold, and it's time to put them in their place, he stated, starting to leave. As Hanzo left, the day continued, and in a hidden cave in the forest of the Land of Rain, Minato was sitting in the lotus position, finishing refilling his chakra reserves. He had not returned to the Land of Fire. He discovered that it was not just one camp but 2 of them, so he was not satisfied with just the camp from last night and wanted to strike them again, while he recuperated. The entire forest was bustling, and Minato remained hidden in the cave until some ninjas came to investigate the area by late afternoon. They didn't stand a chance as Minato surprised them and eliminated them within seconds. Meanwhile, the Earth Patrol noticed the absence of some comrades and went to investigate. They arrived there at sunset, seeing only the bodies on the ground as night began to fall. He's around here. They began searching for Minato. However, the boy was already far away, flying through the orange sky heading north once again. This time, he intended to make a different approach. Minato had made a lot of money from paper bombs, so much that he was already prepared to buy his own property when he returned to Konoha. But he was not just producing to sell his paper bombs, he was also stockpiling them. He had at least 10,000 paper bombs, and this night would be a good opportunity to use them. Again, he flew over the camp with Jeppo. The place was much more guarded as they kept sentinels everywhere. He then threw a kunai into a discreet corner, appearing while he began eliminating the sentinels around along with the sensory ninjas, unnoticed. After that, he started placing papers in some places for distraction. Let's begin. Minato murmured, activating a seal, while 10 paper bombs exploded on the southern side in the middle of the forest. The explosion sent trees flying as all the ninjas there went on alert. Enemy attack! They exclaimed, approaching that side of the camp. Seeing them looking that way, Minato began to act. He started creating clones while they subtly disappeared, placing paper bombs all over the camp. I swear I saw someone on my side, exclaimed a ninja seeing the shadow disappearing beside him. What are you saying? HM? The ninja murmured and noticed something strange at the feet of the ninja. These are paper bombs, the ninjas said, seeing dozens of paper bombs on the ground with Minato placing them in milliseconds, and the entire camp was filled with them. As soon as he took a distance, Minato clenched his hands into a seal and all the paper bombs began to catch fire at that moment. The enemy ninjas were horrified as small flames appeared all over the camp. Take cover! They exclaimed, but the next moment, once again, the night sky was lit up with explosions from another camp, causing unprecedented deaths, while all the paper bombs formed a massive explosion with their accumulation. Minato looked at it with a calm demeanor. He took no pleasure in killing people, however, he was returning the same treatment that the Earth Village had launched at Konoha and for the Earth Ninjas having hurt his friends. Let's go back, Minato said, disappearing before anyone could catch him. He ended up returning near that cave to check things out. The Earth Ninjas there, still unaware of the situation at the second camp, were searching for Minato and trying to find him, despite a glow having appeared in the sky to the north and everyone looking there. Minato was about to leave them behind when he sensed a powerful presence nearby, which made him curiously wary. The Four Tails Jinchuriki is here? Minato murmured with a curious look. Chapter 128, Four Tails Jinchuriki. Third-person POV. Land of Rain, Year 38. Rashi-sama. A ninja looked into the distance as she saw another explosion light up the sky. That was at the camp. Another ninja pointed out with concern. That boy can teleport with that weird jutsu. Rashi commented, still recalling the reports of his target. He's probably not here anymore, so we're just wasting time. Catching someone like that is practically impossible as long as he has chakra to teleport. He's probably heading back to the Land of Fire, Rashi said. We should help them, another jonin exclaimed. Yes. HM? Rashi, in the middle of the jonins who were his security as a Jinchuriki, looked surprised to the side as a kunai embedded itself in the tree ahead of them, and then Minato, in his ANBU outfit, appeared. The place immediately entered a whirlwind as Minato held his Raisin Shuriken in his right hand, raising it. It was created even before the teleportation, and thus, it began emitting its characteristic sound throughout the area. The ninjas could only see that light shining from his hand before it was launched at them. The Raisin Shuriken quickly advanced, and despite the ninjas trying to jump away, Minato's jutsu exploded the next moment, beginning to devastate the entire area. A huge explosion lit up the space again, disintegrating everything. As things began to calm down a moment later, after all the sounds echoed throughout the forest, Minato looked with interest at the explosion. He had already eliminated almost all the stone ninjas by then. However, his target was still alive, and amid the chaos, lava began to erupt a moment later, while a massive wave of lava started rushing toward Minato. He quickly jumped up, using Jeppo, as he watched the lava consume the forest, setting it ablaze, filling the hole he had created with Raisin Shuriken with a huge lava lake. That was quite surprising, brat, the voice of the Jinchuriki emerged from the flames. Rashi was surrounded by a thick red layer with 4 tails. He looked quite injured, but he seemed to be constantly healing after Minato's attack. So you used your chakra layer to protect yourself from a Raisin Shuriken, interesting. Although it wasn't that efficient. Minato murmured with interest. Minato indeed intended to kill this man, however, the high regeneration due to the Biju's chakra helping him withstand the attack made it not so easy to kill him after all. But it's still strange. I've never seen anyone attacking a Jinchuriki openly. You're strange, boy, he said, looking at Minato with some interest. You seem like a wild beast, devastating all my village's camps at the border, but are you doing it out of anger? He asked, seeing the only one alive there. Obviously. You attacked and hurt my friends, and even killed some of them. This is my own retaliation. Minato spoke. He was there trying to kill a Jinchuriki openly and didn't care about what it might repercuss. He just wanted to kill as many as possible and weaken the stone village for their audacity. Rashi clicked his tongue and didn't care anymore, attacking the next moment. He launched his hand as his chakra quickly expanded, creating a huge hand with an extended arm flying toward Minato. He quickly dodged, jumping in the air, and another hand appeared. Minato once again dodged with Jeppo. You can use the space in the air as some kind of platform? What kind of jutsu or technique is that? The Jinchuriki was quite surprised as he saw the boy dodging in the air with ease. Minato dodged another attack while remaining upside down, staring at the Jinchuriki in the middle of the lava lake. He completed the seals and spat out a massive fireball, forming the figure of a roaring dragon. You really think that can't be effective against me? My Biju already has the lava element, you fool, he said as the flames quickly clashed against him. However, as the flames traveled through his vision, a shuriken appeared within them. Minato had thrown it with his jutsu. It remained intact even within the high-degree flames. The Jinchuriki didn't move as the shuriken hit the red chakra cloak without damage. But Rashi noticed something as soon as he saw the metal behind it, with a symbol of Minato's jutsu engraved on the metal. The symbols of Raijin need chakra for Minato to use teleportation, and it requires chakra ink for that. Ordinary metal couldn't be embedded with chakra, but this metal was special. Minato had bought it with a huge amount of money he made since it was a chakra conductor, just like many of the world's most powerful swords were made. Minato appeared at that moment amidst the flames, with one of his hands crackling with electricity. He quickly moved to kill the Jinchuriki, who was quite stunned by this. Minato bypassed the chakra layer and began to hit the Jinchuriki's skin, narrowly missing piercing his heart. The Jinchuriki immediately flew back, falling into the lava lake. Looks like he managed to dodge at the last moment, Minato murmured, while his body had various glows after being slightly burned by the flames he had created himself, recovering quickly. Minato turned his gaze to the lava lake and felt the Jinchuriki starting to recover at that moment. So, as I thought, they can heal in such a short time, even from an attack like that. Minato murmured, and the next moment, new hands emerged trying to grab Minato, but he just left, with Rashi not seeing the strange lights on Minato healing him. Rashi was quite frustrated, first surprised by this child trying to kill him openly without any hesitation. He thought Minato was just a fool acting on his own, but after almost having his heart pierced, he began to look at him with more cautious eyes. The boy had eliminated all the Jonins, and only he was alive here. If things continued like this, he might have his life taken by a child driven by rage after his superior's decision. Rashi still didn't have much control over the bijou, so he didn't want to enter a new phase and lose control. His chest soon began to be completely healed, and he could breathe again. Seeing Minato dodging once again in the air, he thought of a different approach, then began performing a series of seals to unleash high-scale jutsus, combining them with his bijou chakra. Quickly, lava explosions erupted like a volcano. Minato was caught off guard by this, disappearing and reappearing at another distant corner, while the massive lava explosion spread through the forest, illuminating the entire region. He's getting dangerous, but that's good. Minato was getting excited for a moment, advancing with a desire to neutralize the Jinchuriki as his last act of revenge before returning to the border. New lava explosions surged in his direction, flying like meteors, while he began dodging them as he approached. He once again created a raisin shuriken with his hand and launched it, breaking all the lava balls and heading towards the center of all that chaos. Again, a huge explosion erupted, illuminating the center of the lava, the Jinchuriki there getting hurt once again, unable to do anything but his body healing him automatically. It was at that moment that Minato appeared in front of him, transformed into light after the raisin shuriken disappeared. Rashi barely had time to react as his neck was grabbed, catching him by surprise. Once again, Minato's hand turned into lightning, and he aimed at his heart, moving it quickly like a razor. The Jinchuriki was surprised by this and immediately began to let his chakra flow, ready to release the next stage. After all, it was better to go berserk than to be killed. However, as Minato continued almost piercing his skin, he felt something, and someone reappeared amidst all that lava with a sword pointing at him. This person had a speed far superior to anyone Minato had ever faced, appearing there and surprising him. Minato couldn't even see him coming and, to avoid being hit and revealing his trump card, he had to cancel his attack, disappearing while Hanzo only slashed the chakra wave, destroying part of the lava lake the next moment. Rashi was surprised, but also afraid, as this man was known as the god of shinobi. He took a step back, looking cautiously at Rashi while massaging his neck after being grabbed. "Leave now, Stone Jinchuriki. I'm only saving you because I don't want even more chaos in my country," said Hanzo, knowing that if the Stone Village lost one of their Jinchuriki, the war would escalate to a new level and wouldn't be just isolated skirmishes anymore. The Jinchuriki was genuinely afraid of losing his life there and ended up nodding and fleeing. Rashi had really almost seen himself die there. It was not a pleasant feeling and he just nodded to Hanzo's words, recognizing that neither he nor his bijou could win. Minato reappeared a bit at a distance, exhausted, as he was nearly spent after destroying an entire camp and using multiple raisin shurikens and ragens in such a short period of time. His chakra was reaching its limit. Hanzo jumped as the lava began to fill that empty space that had been disintegrated by the raisin shuriken, jumping out of the lake and looking at Minato in the distance with interest. Minato approached instead of fleeing, and Hanzo seemed satisfied with this. "I always wanted to meet you since I saw you more than a year ago," said Hanzo with interest, as he had asked his men to monitor the boy and knew about the strange activities of a Konoha group about someone who could teleport fighting against the Sand Village in the south. "You are Hanzo of the Salamander, known as the god of shinobi of this era," Minato said, slightly out of breath. "Tell me your name, boy," he asked suddenly. He didn't intend to kill Minato, but he would stop him from causing more chaos, as that would be even worse for his country. "Minato Namikaze," Minato said. "Minato Namikaze, I will remember that," murmured Hanzo, looking serious. "I can see that you are possessed by anger and hatred, but I can't allow you to cause more chaos. So, it's better you leave while you can, boy," he said, as Minato was nearly out of chakra. "I'm not done yet, Hanzo," Minato said stubbornly. "I was preparing a jutsu for the Jinchuriki, to finish him, but since he's not here anymore, I will test it against you." Minato spoke, as the sky began to light up with lightning. "You can't beat me. I can see and feel that your amount of chakra is much less than your reservoir, despite it being surprisingly gigantic. You really are a monster, boy, even though you're not a Jinchuriki, responded Hanzo. I don't need to use my chakra for this, Minato said as the sky lit up even more. Hanzo narrowed his eyes, seeing that this boy wanted to fight him now, perhaps for fame, for being foolish or to test him, he couldn't say, but he thought Minato was just a fool wanting to die quickly. However, his thoughts were interrupted by more lightning appearing in the sky. A storm formed above them at that moment, and Hanzo looked a bit surprised. The heat from all that destroyed forest with flames and lava warmed the air, but Hanzo was truly surprised when suddenly, a massive roar emerged from the stormy clouds. What is that? He murmured, opening his eyes wide. Chapter 129, Fighting Against Hanzo 01. Third-person POV. Land of Rain, Year 38. The lightning began to shine in the middle of the sky accompanied by a roar that made Hanzo look up with wide eyes. What is that? He murmured. This is my third rank S, Hanzo. Minato spoke as he started to rise to the sky with Jeppo. Hanzo looked up with narrowed eyes as Minato ascended higher and higher. What a strange ability to jump in the air. He was equally surprised seeing this with the Jeppo, but his gaze shifted upward with a second roar. How did lightning appear in the sky? Hanzo thought as his eyes fell on the lava and the burning forest at that moment. The hot air. He's using the storm created by this to direct all the lightning, but what is that roar? He can dominate the lightning. This kid should only be 12 or 13 years old. How can he have such abilities? Hanzo couldn't help but look up at Minato ascending higher with some admiration. Minato rose to a point while raising his hand, creating a Raikiri with the roar being released a third time. Then with a brighter glow a dragon shaped like a dragon emerged from the clouds with red eyes looking at Hanzo like prey. No offense, Hanzo, but I prepared this jutsu to be launched at the Jinchuriki of the stone. Let's see if you live up to your reputation. Minato commented calmly, but he was angry. He could no longer go after the Jinchuriki, so he would launch his deadly attack against this ninja. He had trained on an isolated side to master the hidden thunder through a journey to the west of the country of rain. This was his third high-level jutsu mastered. What is this thing? Rushi was kilometers away, but the roar in the form of Kirin were visible to him, looking stunned at it. This is Kirin, the manifested lightning. Minato commented indifferently, looking at Hanzo with a sparkle in his eyes. With a small movement of his hand, the lightning-shaped dragon began to ascend the sky while Minato prepared it. Go Kirin. In the next moment, the dragon descended and rushed towards Hanzo on the ground, generating a massive column of lightning with the strongest man of aim, only able to open his eyes with them reflecting the head of the dragon getting ever closer. The explosion echoed throughout the area while everything was lit up by the attack, alerting thousands of ninjas everywhere kilometers away, with the sound of the huge Realengo echoing a few seconds later. After all, light travels faster than sound. Jiraiya was running towards the location from a distance with a frown, wondering what was happening there. It had been almost 2 days since Minato had disappeared, and he followed to see if he found him after what he had done with the stone camp. The explosion continued echoing for a while as the place was enveloped in electricity running through the land and air until it calmed down while Minato was a bit breathless, falling in the middle of the hole his lightning had created. He might have used most of his chakra with the natural lightning created by the heated atmosphere, but it didn't mean he also didn't have to spend his chakra to move all the electrical energy as an attack. The sky started to calm down after that as he narrowed his gaze at the surroundings around the hole. His instincts quickly screamed about an attack coming from behind, so fast that he could not dodge using Sara with the strength of his body, even though he had already released the weights before the fight with the Jinchuriki. Then he flashed before disappearing. An explosion occurred in the place where Minato was, as a tongue appeared destroying the ground and spreading poison, while a giant salamander was on the site, with the body all battered, but still active with injuries, in her mouth. Hanzo was looking with interest as he saw the tongue of his summoning hit nothing. What was that? He was almost out of chakra. He couldn't help but murmur with this boy becoming ever more a mystery to him, and apparently, he still had more tricks. His gaze shifted to the other side, where Minato had stopped and was staring at him with some calmness, despite appearing a bit exhausted. I'm out of chakra. I have to use my fruit until I recover my chakra. Minato decided, although he had hidden his fruit until now. Hanzo would be the first person to see it and possibly come out alive. After all, Minato didn't think he could kill him.
You still have some tricks, then show me. Hanzo said, despite finding it very suspicious that Minato didn't have enough chakra for this.
He began making hand seals at that moment.
Let's see if you can handle this.
Hanzo said, completing his jutsu, while the air around him began to turn into water. He has his title known worldwide, his jutsu must be nothing small, and I believe he has the water and earth elements. Minato murmured as he watched the water around Hanzo increasing in size until it even circled his entire salamander summon, before advancing towards Minato with a huge scale. The water transformed into a funnel and began to advance through the hole created by the Kirin Jutsu, simply rushing at full speed while exploding above Minato, who had no chakra to use the Raijin, and the jutsu came out of the hole beginning to dig through the earth and trees still aflame from the previous Jinchuriki's jutsu. It advanced, destroying everything at a rank S level, even bigger than the Rasen Shuriken.
Debris, water, and smoke spread everywhere, and Hanzo waited for 10 seconds watching his destruction, trying to detect Minato. Did he flee?
He asked, landing on top of the salamander's head, emerging from its mouth. However, at this moment a strong glow came from the destruction as Minato's body was filled with light due to the damage he received while he was returning to normal. Hanzo opened his eyes in surprise at this, while Minato was already near him, catching him off guard, and he just managed to put his arm up to protect from the punch. Hanzo quickly flew while exploding on the ground with a light bomb emerging the next moment. The chameleon didn't look happy at all as its tongue quickly met with Minato on his head, who transformed into light while dodging. He didn't know what would happen with the poison touching him, even being a Logia, so he didn't want to risk. Again he dodged the tongue, while the chameleon continued attacking him at high speed. And as he kept doing this a couple more times, Hanzo returned, advancing towards Minato so fast that he grabbed his special kunai and struck against Hanzo's katana. You have even stranger abilities after all the jutsus I've seen. I've never seen anyone glow and move at this speed, and that wasn't teleportation. Besides, you don't seem to take physical damage.
What kind of monster are you? Are you human?
Hanzo said after seeing all those abilities, which was normal when someone his age had seen so many things, and few things could surprise him nowadays, and this boy was certainly one of them. Of course I am, but none of my elements, wind, lightning, and fire, are the main ones, but my yang. Minato admitted, seeing no reason to lie, and then tried to press his kunai against Hanzo, but the latter began to put chakra into his sword and Minato saw his weapon being cut the next moment. I forgot this guy could cause a bloodbath in the lands of the samurais. Minato murmured as he transformed into light and moved from the sword cut, appearing on the other side. Hanzo descended to his salamander as it put him in its mouth and closed before disappearing, becoming invisible and releasing a poisonous gas.
He wants to play then.
Minato mocked while trying to sense him with observation haki, but was surprised that he could not identify him there.
Can he deceive my haki with his salamander?
Minato couldn't help being surprised, but at the same time quite excited, seeing a powerful opponent fighting against him. Even with the intention of killing him that he had with Hanzo, he thought the man had abilities that could really give a good fight. He began to use his eyes more, searching for anything amidst the chaos with water surrounding him. The water from Hanzo's jutsu started to recede as he stopped coming out of the hole being filled with it. He searched until he found some marks on the ground being made at that moment and pointed his finger, launching a burst of light exploding, but the salamander dodged the attack by jumping to another side, and Minato did it again, with it dodging.
This is persistent.
Minato couldn't help but murmur and decided to end it another way, as his body suddenly glowed, emitting a strong light illuminating the darkness of the night, with Hanzo's salamander immediately going blind, which made it break the ground trying to balance while revealing its presence, and Minato appeared in front of it, kicking it, sending it flying back as if it were punched, but without much force. After all,
Minato was not strong enough to make such a large body mass fly like a bullet.
Hanzo was surprised by the chaos generated by Minato and came out of the salamander's mouth as he performed more summoning jutsus, while more than 10 giant salamanders began to appear at that moment. This guy really is a monster. He already had one salamander and performed a rank S scale jutsu, but he still managed to summon more than 10 giant summons. He must have almost the chakra of a Jinchuriki.
Minato murmured.
In the next moment, he began to dodge various tongues as the salamanders all became invisible, with him only able to feel the presence of the attack arriving and starting to spread everywhere around him. Minato began to make lines dodging the attacks through the air for the next 10 minutes, while finally taking some distance above them, as he crossed his arms emitting flashes of energy. Even Hanzo felt the danger of that attack as a rain of light descended from the sky the next moment, aiming to hit him. A line of explosions began once more, illuminated by the dark sky. Numerous ninjas had already arrived in the region since Minato's first attacks on the Jinchuriki, but no one could intervene in that chaos while a giant area was all destroyed at that moment. Minato landed in the middle of that chaos, feeling that all the salamanders had disappeared, unable to sense any more remnants of any there. "I'm tired," Minato had to admit. Although he had managed to recover a good amount of chakra, he still used a lot of stamina. "You are really powerful." A voice emerged behind Minato, and he opened his eyes surprised as a salamander materialized while he was about to use Raijin but gave up as soon as he sensed a presence arriving, and Hanzo quickly saw this too when his salamander was hit with a giant fork. "Sorry about that. I'm clumsy." The thick and colossal voice was heard as _______ appeared, making the salamander scream in pain while disappearing the next moment. "You're here too," Hanzo commented, looking forward with some interest. Atop Gamaken was Jiraiya, striking a pose. "The Sage of the Mountain has just arrived for the show." Jiraiya spoke with a somewhat cheerful and arrogant tone. "Jiraiya-sensei." Minato looked at him with interest for him being here too. Chapter 130, Fighting Against Hanzo 02. Third-person POV. Land of Rain, Year 38. "You seem quite busy, boy. Are you all right?" Jiraiya spoke from atop his summon to Minato on the ground. "I'm just a bit tired. Fighting against Hanzo is not an easy task," Minato commented. "If someone told me they saw a boy fighting Hanzo himself and lasting more than a few minutes, I would laugh at that person," Jiraiya said with a slight smile. He was surprised by Minato. Although wanting to know how the boy got into this position, he still had to admit that seeing the explosions in the distance and seeing him there alone standing against Hanzo made him reflect on whether he really knew his student. An explosion interrupted his thoughts as a large cloud of smoke in the distance continued to spread, revealing a gigantic salamander, much larger than the others, with red stripes and far more threatening than any that had appeared so far. "It seems we meet again, Jiraiya of Konoha, so I will show you my main summon," Hanzo spoke from atop that summon. "I should get Jiraiya out of here, or use the little chakra I've recovered in the fight, to help deal with Hanzo." Minato was debating, but this was an opportunity he might not get again, dealing with the known strongest man in the world of this era. Having made a decision, he began to make numerous hand seals after biting his hand, and finally slammed it against the ground, creating the summoning jutsu. Another explosion emerged with Jiraiya looking curiously at Minato, as he raised an eyebrow at who appeared at that moment. "So I finally summoned him." Minato was also surprised by the red-skinned giant with a huge sword beside the giant frog. Hanzo silently watched the second summon appear next to the other frog. "Where am I? Jiraiya?" Gamabunta murmured, trying to understand the situation before seeing Jiraiya and Gamaken beside him, becoming confused. "I wasn't the one who summoned you," Jiraiya spoke, before he noticed someone on his head. "Who are you? Are you the child who signed the contract recently?" he asked as Minato jumped from his head to his nose with a quick introduction. "I am Minato Namikaze, yes. I signed the contract and you are the second summon I have made from Mount Mayaboku," Minato said. "You are too small to make a summon like mine." Gamabunta didn't seem to disdain Minato, but it was hard for him to believe that a child had summoned him. He couldn't imagine that Minato did it with just recharged chakra in the last minutes. "Can I count on you?" Minato ignored his comment and asked as Gamabunta took his eyes off the boy and looked ahead where there was the huge salamander, where Hanzo was not in a hurry to start the fight, waiting for them to prepare. He also enjoyed powerful challenges and it wasn't every day that he would fight against two huge summons. "So this is Ibuse, the leader of the Salamander clan. Well, I have no choice. Let's deal with her, but be careful of her poison," Gamabunta said, and Minato nodded satisfied that this guy didn't act like Naruto the first time he summoned him in the original work. Minato returned to the frog's head and looked at Hanzo in the distance. Jiraiya also turned his attention to the opponent with a serious look. As Hanzo himself looked at the two giant frogs with interest, he would be dealing against these two giant frogs. The next moment they all advanced towards each other while Gamaken raised his spear and shield and Gamabunta also advanced drawing his huge sword. Seeing this, Hanzo also advanced, starting his attack by releasing poisonous gas while the frogs quickly began to dodge and launch attacks with their weapons getting close to the salamander. A battle among giants began at that moment while explosions and destruction through the already destroyed field with lava, lightning, and light by Minato. For the first time, Minato was fighting with his giant summons. Although the battle was extremely different from what he was used to, it was certainly a new and satisfying experience. As long as he didn't touch that poisonous gas from the salamander's summon, Jiraiya also stood firm helping Minato as he also helped him. Ninjas at a distance could see the fight, both ninjas who came following Jiraiya, ninjas from AIM, and even ninjas from the Earth Village after the explosions Minato created fighting against the Jinchuriki. Who is fighting? A ninja from the Sand Village asked with a concerned tone in the distance. They were here after the attack on the second camp with thousands of paper bombs while many of their comrades were killed in that manner, and the suspicion was on the ninja who attacked yesterday's camp. It was frustrating for the Stone Village to think that just one child ended up killing almost 1,000 of their ninjas seeking revenge for their attack while they couldn't even handle him. The frogs are from Jiraiya of Konoha. He is on one of them, fighting against Hanzo the salamander, but on the other frog, he is wearing an Umbu uniform. It's the ninja who attacked us, the Sand Ninja finally recalled, looking at Minato with hatred. Should we do something? We have to stop him. His comrades shared the hatred for Minato, but weren't sure if they could handle the chaos created by the giant creatures fighting each other. I think not. We don't want to draw Hanzo's wrath if we interfere in his fight. The leader spoke despite the anger he felt for Minato fighting there. They couldn't afford to make another enemy at this moment. Hanzo was killing ninjas from all sides, but nobody wanted his wrath. Let's wait for the fight to end and hope they run out of chakra so we can move against the Konoha ninjas. He warned before other teams came close to them. Did Rushi-sama make it to the camp? He asked the newly arrived ninjas. Yes. Despite being quite injured, he is okay, the ninja said. Did he say what happened? The leader asked. After all, they found Rushi halfway in a very deplorable state with a far from confident expression he used to have. The boy almost killed him. The ninja murmured. That's what he said. Are you saying that a child almost killed Rushi-sama? Another ninja exclaimed in disbelief. Don't forget that this child devastated 2 entire camps alone and all the jonin who accompanied Rushi-sama were killed, the leader said while turning back to the fight causing explosions with every move while the area was enveloped with poison and the 2 Konoha ninjas were trying to dodge Hanzo's gas, hopping from one side to another. Our superiors still underestimated the child. He has another S-rank jutsu, capable of devastating an entire area. We have to eliminate him before the end of this war so as not to let this monster grow even more, the leader said in the end. On the other side, the ninjas from the Rain Village were waiting to intervene if any other ninja interfered in their leader, Hanzo-sama's fight. He didn't like people interfering in his fights and would become extremely furious, hence they waited for any movement. Meanwhile, the Konoha ninjas were in 2 groups watching the fight from a distance, not without a touch of admiration. It's incredible, they are fighting against Hanzo, the salamander, equally, and Umbu said. I wouldn't say that. Commander Jiraiya with his student are still at a disadvantage. Hanzo is handling this fight better, another Umbu spoke. Should we interfere? Another said. Hardly, only if they are in danger. There are many forces around us watching the fight too, let's just keep an eye out. This leader was a Hyuga and could easily watch for ninjas waiting for the fight to end to make a move. Jiraiya also entered the fight, but doesn't that mean the boy was fighting Hanzo himself alone? Someone couldn't help but ask in surprise. It seems so, and the boy attacked the Stone Village's camp again. Since there are so many Stone Village ninjas there waiting for the fight, the man analyzed the situation and deduced, despite not knowing what happened before he got here. It's really incredible. The boy is Jiraiya's student and I heard he is part of a famous Umbu group on the southern border. He is certainly a monster at this age, another murmured. Elsewhere, someone emerged from inside a tree without anyone noticing, the strange creature half white and half black, looking at the fight from a distance.
Incredible, these Konoha ninjas, the white part spoke cheerfully. It seems the war is more heated than we anticipated.
The black part spoke with a somber tone in contrast to the first.
Should we observe? I've always liked fights among giants. White Zetsu exclaimed. We should.
There are variables in this war and we must watch them closely to see if they pose threats to the plan, Black Zetsu said as his gaze fell on the largest frog, where a small person was fighting in white clothes. The fight continued for a while, and nobody noticed 2 hours passing as the frogs attacked and retreated to avoid the gas. Minato was quite surprised by this type of fight, but now more relieved with his chakra already quite full.
Sensei! We should launch a fire jutsu with oil. Minato exclaimed as he looked at him and nodded.
As Hanzo saw this and saw both of them and the frogs beginning to make seals.
A high-scale jutsu. Let's see this.
Hanzo commented as he also began to create seals, watching Minato and Jiraiya launch fire while the frogs spat oil, which resulted in an explosion lighting up the night once more, and Hanzo completed his jutsu creating a water explosion as large as the enemy's attack. He was Hanzo, the shinobi god. He could create with some effort a jutsu that could clash head-on with the ones in front of him. Flames and water collided the next moment while neither side won over the other. All the ninjas could see water and fire reaching a wall of 50 meters in height and hundreds in length, as steam exploded covering the whole forest and even catching the ninjas at a distance. Hanzo looked with a neutral tone within the fog, sensing that his opponents were no longer there. Minato and Jiraiya undid the summoning jutsu while Gamabunta and Gamaken returned to Mount Mayaboku, and Minato approached Jiraiya before they completely disappeared from there.
Hanzo said nothing, keeping his own thoughts and not pursuing them, opting to return to aim. They are escaping.
The stone ninja exclaimed as they began to move towards the fire border in search of killing the one who had caused so much chaos for them. Meanwhile, Minato and Jiraiya were in the middle of 20 Umbu ninjas returning to the fire country, while there was a group of hundreds of ninjas seeking vengeance behind them.
Nobody was the winner. White Zetsu said with some disappointment in his tone. Let's go.
We should return to targeting Madara, Black Zetsu responded as their shell closed and they entered the tree to travel through the underground. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned.
Quick reminder.
The series What If Ichigo awoke his true powers to save his mother is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel.
I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if Transmigrated into a nightmare mode Dragon Ball world? What if Reborn in Highschool DxD as a Lucifuge?
What if Fishing System in Food Wars world?
Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next.
Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released 1 day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.